Welcome to Sacred Conversations, a place where Dr. Nicole Dolan and I, Robin Bethel, along with a myriad of guests, explore some of the sacred threads and wholeness of life, held within the light and within the dark, held within the immensity. Thank you for being with us. In this episode, Nicole and I share conversation around what has been swirling, with my just touching briefly on a gathering swell I've been living into as part of journeys spanning the last few years, before we then open into a more spacious discussion of something incredibly meaningful that has recently met Nicole, stepping into and receiving of deep community, wild, heart-centered, and sacred, that she experienced on a recent retreat for mothers of kids with autism. And this has felt like the completion of a circle, a coming home. This is a glorious note in Nicole's journey, and we hope you, as you circle through your own paths and journeys, enjoy listening. Hi, Nicole.
Good morning, Robin. It's nice to see you.
Good to see you. Today, I think we're just going to touch into kind of what's been moving through our worlds, just kind of a conversational, this week in ordinary but never ordinary time sort of a thing. So we don't know exactly what will come up. Well, actually, I kind of do. For me at least, and then I think what you want to talk about mostly, but who knows where else it might flow. So I, in my kind of catching up just with you, some is this heartbeat that you definitely know pieces of. It's kind of like the deep trust fall journeys, and in a way like initiations in two spaces, one that's been like 4.5 years, and another that's been about 1 year, and kind of deepening, anchoring, and it's kind of always there. And then the last month's kind of a simultaneous opening into a flow of following all of these calls that just feel like extensions of love that began with this podcast and other podcasts and turned to poetry as well for me. And the idea of starting a YouTube channel and just all these different things. So it's kind of like a very large backbeat undercurrent that's constant, continual, crescendoing, just like my dog's bark there. It was 4.5 years ago, and I had the wild intuitive journey began before that in a deep way, but like a wild mystical experience that felt like to the point of like, it just feels like utter magic.
Yeah.
With that, I hand it over to you to share what is of note for you that you want to bring forward.
Yeah, sure. So, well, first, I appreciate doing this. I've had feedback from listeners and friends share that one thing that they appreciate about our podcast so far is that we really both bring our true selves, and at times we really just bring ourselves to conversation with each other. So what's been moving through me and what I can share and just trust the sacred arc and journey of where it takes us is what's coming up in me right now is I've been recently processing another layer of my too muchness. And that's kind of a funny, ironic thing for me because it's certainly one of those things that I thought I had healed. And so as we heal, we all know that we heal in layers, we heal more in a spiral. It's nonlinear. We circle back to a new layer, when we're ready. And so it was a little bit of a surprise to be circling back to that for me. But as I've shared with you, Robin, and I think on the podcast, even a lot of my own inner journey work lately has been around really reclaiming, really coming home to self
Mhm.
fully, full embodiment. And that in itself has been an interesting journey because I am so deeply embodied these days that sometimes my body's answering miles before my mind is.
Mhm.
So that in itself has been a unique experience. But to come back to this too muchness, I've really been feeling as I've moved through those layers of self abandonment, ways in which I was shape shifting to show up in different relationships just to make people more comfortable, not to have such big energy in certain situations, maybe not feel or share how I really I can't help how I feel, but maybe not share how I really feel because, people don't want to talk about feelings or things that just make them uncomfortable, right? So many people want to live their lives on the surface. And so that can make me feel like an orphan in this world.
Mhm.
I often feel very connected to the people of this world and the people that I serve, and certainly the people who serve with me, my wonderful friends out there in the world, such as yourself and others that are just doing such beautiful, beautiful work in the world. But I also feel sometimes that just at home in community and circle, sometimes that feels lost for me. And so I had an experience recently that we talked about me sharing with you of being in deep community, being in a place where I really feel like I fit. And it felt really beautiful and wonderful to be part of. And I think from that experience, I think I came home and having already been working through pulling these layers of shape shifting and self abandonment off, I think it really just kind of brought me to a 9, right? Like a completion in the sense of, okay, I have found places that I fit. And of course, I have many people that I fit with, you and many, many others, but they're all throughout the world, right? So it's not often that I'm in a space where there's 10 or 20 of us and I just feel like I fit in a
Mhm.
group. And so I had this experience, and I think that, and I'll get into the experience, but I think that having that experience also brought me in this full circle journey of like coming home and just kind of accepting nothing less. You know,
Mhm.
I wound up even saying to a dear friend at one point, I just want to go where I'm celebrated. And I know that that in itself, it kind of met some jagged edges, and we're working through that. And I really honor that friend in choosing to work through that with me. But I know that saying something like that isn't something that people typically say, right? We don't typically show up fully as ourselves and desire to be seen fully. And so it's something that's shifting in me in my personal world. And a big catalyst of that was this retreat that I went on. And so I went on this retreat for mothers of autistic children, and it was run by these incredible, incredible, incredible women, Maureen Bryce and Bridget Shipman. And Bridget Shipman runs a podcast called The Mother's Guide, and she is a phenomenal speaker and also writer and teacher, and also a mom with an autistic kid. And so is Maureen. Maureen is a powerful medicine woman and a brilliant, brilliant person. I read her book in 4 hours on the plane ride home from this retreat after I met her because I was like, "You are magic." So, and I felt like I was reading, a huge part of my own story and my own journey. So there was just this deep reflection in these women that were facilitating this retreat. And then there was too in the women there, and I don't always experience that. Like I'm saying, I'm a leader. I'm a powerful energy, and so I can have a hard time fitting into groups as a participant. And so I went into this space really just holding the intention of like, you know what? I feel like I'm called here. I feel like I've done some work with Bridget before. And so I was drawn to like, hey, I'll go meet her in person and see what happens.
Mhm.
And so I was very open, not expecting any outcome. I assumed that there would be moments where, of course, we would feel, a likeness, right? We are on the same journey. And I would feel supported and I would feel seen in some ways. And I'd probably hold a lot of space for a lot of people, is what I thought, Like, I was just probably like, I will probably be the one seeing them. And that's okay. I'm used to that. And it turned out to be a space where I belonged. And like I'm sharing, that just was a very unique experience for me in community and in group. And so, a really fun aspect that I can share about it, I mean, there were things like, first off, I mean, one of the women, Bridget's friend, I believe, she owns this gorgeous retreat center for, not even a retreat, I'm calling it a retreat center, but it's actually a venue in the Ozarks for weddings.
Mhm.
And she gave us the space to have this retreat there. I speak as if I like hosted it. I didn't, but she allowed us all to come there and have this time and space. And so, I mean, you were just in this magical, beautiful, beautiful place. I mean, you just looked out over the Ozarks, and I can't even begin to explain like the nature, being in nature there just felt so alive. It felt like a deeply spiritual, like a connected place.
Mhm.
So being there was very peaceful, very beautiful, more than I could have ever expected, I mean, we had the whole place to ourselves. So like in the evening we had, like the photo booth that you would have for the weddings set up too, and like the little, retreat area where, wedding parties go down and sit by the fire, or they go over here and dance, or so it
Mhm.
was really fun too. And one of the fun things about my, personal manifestations is, I've said for a long time, I've said I have a hard time belonging for reasons that I've shared, but also because I am I'm a very professional woman, but I'm also a sacred rebel. Like, so like the part of me that, feels alive in, and you've known this, right? Like dancing on the edge, or like, walking close or into the fire. Like the part of me that feels alive in that way, I feel like I can struggle, right? To like, okay, so if I'm trying to find like my spirit people, I often will wind up like at a sound bath. That's wonderful, right? But I'm not going to be the person who's maybe hugging the trees. And it's not to say that I don't love trees. So how do I want to say that differently? I guess what I want to say is, so often I've wanted to find, like, my own personal call in has been, are there women out there that want to, be in deep sacred conversation,
Mhm.
be deeply intentional in the way that we love and serve and parent and show up in the world for ourselves and for others, and now for our children? Are there women that are deeply integrous and, hardworking and soul driven, that also, want to go maybe drink wine and dance under the stars or howl at the moon or whatever it is? Like they also have this like sacred wild.
Mhm.
And for me, I don't typically find that. I don't think that that's easy to find necessarily. So I hope I'm describing that well enough. But it's funny because I actually had said that, to my guides, to the stars before. It was like, I really desire a space where I can be both.
Yeah.
And this was a space where that fully happened.
Mm.
And one of the reasons I think it was so unique, I mean, it was just, I was talking to Maureen Bryce about this, and she's so in tune energetically. I mean, powerhouse when it comes to what she can do. And I was talking to her at one point and I said, there's something about this group of women that's like really special. And I know everybody felt it. I know they were like, this feels special, this feels really good. We like each other, we're getting along, we're enjoying our time together. But I think those that were really, and there were, others in the group that were really energetically sensitive and attuned, you could just tell that there was something really beautiful about this group, and also that this will grow. So I will help. promote this and bring other mothers here in the future because what an incredible support. So we had this beautiful, wonderful experience and time, whether we were in, a sacred moment where we were intentional in what we were sharing, or we were learning things about autism and how you can best, support your child, or we were, getting out the glow sticks and using the DJ mics and the wedding photo booths and whatever, and just having a great time. And we were all catered by like, the food that they served to the wedding guests. I mean, it was just such a gift of
Mm.
abundance. It felt like coming home in ways for me. It felt like honestly, I just held it as such a gift. It felt like, those moments where we really feel seen and we really feel met and we feel held. And for me, it's not easy to feel held. I
Mm.
do a lot of the holding. So when I find someone that can hold me, it feels rare, although I'm working on shifting that more and more in my life. And certainly, Robin, you've been somebody who's held me and held my story as my editor and my friend. And that's been so meaningful to me. And so this was a place where I was held in community and it felt aligned and it felt divine. And I remember Maureen and Bridget sharing with me that, some of the girls were sharing how they wound up there, how they felt called to come. And I was like, I don't really know. I just felt like I was supposed to come. And then when we were there, we realized that they were there on my birthday, calling it in, like manifesting the women that were meant to come. And so it just truly a gift that just landed in so many ways. And at the end of the retreat, we were only there for 3 days, almost not long enough. And at the end, we were all standing around in this circle. And there was this little waterfall next to us. And we had placed these stones into the waterfall with our intentions moving forward. And each of us became rather quiet there. Like you could actually feel that each of us was really putting all of our energy forward for each other, like into each other's attention and really sending so much love to each person there because this is a really hard journey too that we're on. And I shared something with the group. I think I mentioned it to you, but I'll share here that was just so special to me and it was so true and it meant so much. I said, before I came here, I knew that the children who come to us, the ones who chose us to guide them, to mother them, are incredibly special people. And I really mean that. And then I said, but now I know that the women that these children have chosen are incredibly special women. I mean, it was And I mean that with all of my heart and all of my soul. It was such a shift for me too, because it was a moment of being like, not only do I feel like I belong, but I
Mhm.
actually belong to a really special club.
Mm, mhm,
Like, I came back and I remember telling Scott and others, it was just like, I actually like maybe I didn't know where that tribe was, but when I found that tribe, it
mhm,
was like, wow, like this is a special club.
mhm,
So it was a deeply, deeply meaningful, important, transformative experience. I can't wait to do it again. And like I said, I mean, these women and what they're creating in the world for mothers of autistic kids are just,
mhm,
it's so powerful. Some of the things that they're putting together. Temple Grandin was on with Bridget on her podcast the other day. And
mhm.
so I'm really excited for what's to come, and I'm happy to be a part of really lifting them up too.
I love
These are
that.
the creators of the retreat. But yeah, it was so, so meaningful to me. And then the last thing I'll share about it is there was something also that changed in me toward my daughter.
Mm,
Like there was something that just shifted. And it was interesting because I don't know if I knew this about Maureen before really engaging with her and her energy. I mean, we had some profound moments, Maureen and I. We had moments where we were sitting alone on a deck and there's these three bald eagles just circling above us with this rainbow shining through over the Ozarks, and we came downstairs to meet everyone for dinner, and we're like, "Did you guys see that?" They're like, "What are you talking about?" So we also had, like, these really profound, magical,
Mhm.
synchronistic, just amazing moments. I felt like my father in spirit was really close too. But so I found out I don't think I knew this about Maureen at the time, but I feel like just being with her activated so much in me. I noticed how I was shifting with Ella, and I found out later that one of her gifts and one of the things that she wants to bring to the world in the biggest way is actually teaching mothers to and fathers who are interested to attune to the frequency energetically of their child.
Mm.
And so I will share, it's been a new way of holding this. I mean, I've already been holding it differently in my own time, but it also was like another moment of integration where I'll give you an example. I'm sitting with my daughter and she's with a group of people and there's a teacher. And when I say a group of people, that's funny. There weren't many people around, but that's just what I saw. So that's what we're gonna go with. So I'm imagining her in community, but she's sitting with a teacher. And as she's sitting with her, she starts like, kind of interrupting what she's sharing and puts her foot in her mouth. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And normally, in years past, I would have been so like, okay, I'm worried about the germs on her feet, which I still am, but like I'm worried about like what other people think and not necessarily about me. Like the
Yeah,
judgment wasn't often really fear about what I was worried about what people thought of me,
right.
but I've done a lot of work on that in my life. It was about her though. Like I can have this overwhelming sense of like I need her to belong, right? I need her
Mhm.
to belong because that's what she wants.
Mhm.
And she's so friendly and so outgoing and makes so many friends, but she also sometimes can lose them because of some of the things that she does.
Mhm.
And so she's doing this thing and I'm like, feeling the anxiety kind of rise in my system, like looking around and like, okay, what would that be like? But I quiet the noise and I just listen to the child who is disrupting the teacher and the
Mhm.
field,
Mhm.
right? And is, now all of a sudden talking about, did you know that when you get this illness in your feet, and it can, she progressively, as a 9-year-old would, as best that she could, explains gangrene, basically,
Mhm.
and how when you get this illness in your feet, then what can possibly happen is this major infection in which the doctor has to amputate and then you lose your toes.
Mhm.
And I'm like, okay, can we just maybe go back to where we were before, right? And the teacher pauses and she says, well, that's really interesting, Ella, because my mom just went through that.
Mm.
And that was just one of many, many moments I've had with
Mhm.
my magical, intuitive, highly sensitive daughter,
Mhm.
where I recognize that if I can attune to her and I can meet her where she is, I can honor her gifts. I
Mhm.
can start to see that she's showing up in an energetic field in a way of high, high, high sensitivity and knowing and feeling and experiencing and seeing that we don't typically do in this world. And so, you know, the concern comes in there too. I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get her? I need to get her all the way until she's old enough to understand her gifts so that we can integrate this better into life and how we show up in the world. But on a deeper level, it's really beautiful. It's beautiful to be able to see her soul, to be able to see who she really is, And I feel like that's also one of the greatest gifts that have come through this recent experience.
Mm. That sounds so lovely.
Yeah.
Mm. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Mm. And I think that's probably a good place to leave it for today, unless you want to add anything else, Nicole.
I don't think so. I think that that's good for today.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
thank you everyone for listening.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for being with us today. If you feel called, follow the podcast wherever you listen and connect with us on Instagram or YouTube at sacred.conversations.podcast. And most of all, may you keep opening to yourself, to the mystery, and to the story within you that's still being written.